Hey, everybody. Hey, we'll make this quick and painless, and then you'll have to hear Cavell, which I can't promise is quick and painless. I know, but I'm going to be quick and painless. You're the one that. Hey, real quick, it's interesting what's about to happen now. So, really quickly, we really thought that this was an important moment, and we wanted to have the people who have supported this community come out and really give a toast to Adrienne for all the work that she's done in transforming diversity, not just here at this beach, but also for the industry at large. The first year that we partnered with her, we had brought Nas on, and I told a little story about the first time I ever met Nas in person. He was on a plane, and I walked up to him after we landed, and I said, look, man, I never do this, but I just wanted to say, you know, I've been a fan since I heard you on Stretch Armstrong and Bobbito. Stretch Armstrong and Bobbito used to be a college radio show, and that's where it first debuted. And he looked at me, he said, yo, son, that was the beginning. So before I brought him up last year, I told that story and said, but this is the beginning. But the reality is Adrienne is really the beginning. Right. And, you know, yeah. And can diversity is what she started here. And it's over 3 years old. This is our third year here, but she's been pioneering this for this entire community. So I just wanted us to raise a glass. Now, the funny story is she's actually stuck at Tech Check at another beach, not even her own beach. So she's going to come a little bit later, so we might have to cheers her again, but I have to make sure the content moves on. So, even though she's not here, let's just hold our glasses up and say congratulations for everything that Adrienne and her team has done. Right, and the good news is there's YouTube and video, so she's gonna see your smiling faces anyway, and we'll get a good graphic and visual. So, all right, okay, so you wanna say a couple of words real quick?
Happy to. Along the lines of those stories, I remember one of the first can that I came to, and I'm walking along the beach, and almost every single person of color I knew. And that's how small it was at the time. And there was no sort of space for us and from an inclusion in the conversations that we care about that was happening here. And so that's the power of Inkwell. And now I don't even know half the people in the room, and the room is so big. It's like, what is going on here? So that is progress that you can measure and see. And progress comes because our culture is so important. Up and down this beach, there's so much conversation about AI, and we know it's the hottest topic. But AI is not a consumer. Human beings are consumers. And human beings buy, and they are attracted to brands based on, is it culturally relevant to me? Does it speak to me? And that's why this inclusion conversation is so important. We are the ones that are driving and ensuring that this industry does not forget that while, yes, technology is an optimizer, culture is a superpower and an accelerator. And we have to make sure that our stories are being included in the advertising that we do. And so we're going to talk about our NBC partnership and the launch of E+ with NBC. Now, NBC is not doing that because Peter Blacker likes Bonin and I so much. They're doing it because they see the opportunity. They see that it is an effective way to deliver on what their brands are holding them to. And so we're excited about that. But we have to make sure that our stories are being told, and we're excited to have our own destination to tell those stories, because we know that's what's going to drive brands to be connected in real and authentic ways. So super excited for the panel that's coming up. And thanks again for everyone for showing up. Love y'all.
All right, sir. Sorry. Everybody give a huge round of applause to Peter. Peter really pioneered this partnership, and Mr. Roca, who's gonna moderate. And I just want to, one last thing before we jump in, is I just want to say, not only do I appreciate Peter's partnership in this, but I don't think we realize how historic this really is. 1980 was the very first time a diverse, let's just say, large scale, because I know I'm not allowed to use certain words according to legal, but large scale platform was available that had diverse content. After that, there's been less than a handful. Today marks the launch of one of the largest in the space in partnership with you guys. And so it's actually really historic. And I just want to personally give a toast to you and say thank you for all the hard work. So
we couldn't do it without you. And our amazing partnership is 1 year old. So it's always good to build off of that and take it to a new level.
And we were here last year announcing the original partnership. All right, I'm going to hand it over. Sorry.
It's hard to steal the mic from Bonin. But happy to be here. I'm Mike Roca. I lead the Cross-Cultural Center of Excellence at Omnicom Media Group North America. And I'm super excited to be here. This is my first time I can.
Really?
I love...
Welcome.
This is my...
Welcome.
Yeah,
Welcome to your family.
Jeez.
Yeah, so I love seeing the beautiful faces in this room. The representation is critical, and I think you guys hit on that. But the cat's out of the bag, right? So
Finally.
This is amazing. Congratulations on this partnership. I think it's going to set the standard in terms of how the market moves. So with that said, I think the first question on many people's minds, especially given the fact that we are in the middle of the fun upfront season, is how do you think this is going to impact audiences? How do you think this is going to impact the marketplace? And what do you predict is going to happen?
Well, how much money are you going to spend first? Let's get right to this. No, I'm going to let Peter talk about it. Go ahead.
That's why they had me moderate, right? Let's have the guy with the money.
You don't know what this is. Like, you know exactly what it is.
Right, ask for money, you get a moderator. Ask for a moderator, hopefully you get money. So, no, sorry, Peter, go ahead.
No, I would just say I think that this really throws a really new opportunity into the mix. And really, when we set out to do this partnership a year ago, it was at its base level, just trying to create something at scale that would be able to work with marketers. Now that we're adding this incremental content opportunity and a place for storytellers to have their stories distributed at scale inside Peacock with the full promotion of NBCUniversal, I think it not only is going to attract large audiences, but should in turn also engage brands that want to grow. Because the reason why we're doing it, this is a growth play. I mean, joke aside, yes, I love Bonin and I love Cavell, but this is about growing businesses, and that's what I think people are going to want to lean into.
Yeah, and I'm very clear with Peter that I love him too, but yes, this is a growth opportunity for us as well, sir. No, but really, when we sat down and first started talking about it, I said, I want to be in the Peacock business. I don't want to be in the media. I want to be in the Peacock business. And what that meant was that we had to figure out how to drive, or have to continue to figure out how to drive subscribers. And so the fact that you're entrusting us in actually helping you grow your actual business or part of your actual business is important. And the only where that growth comes from is the expansion of storytelling. So I think that that's what it means to the marketplace. And then in addition to that, for the creators in the room, we set out with a dream. What we realized was there wasn't scaled distribution. So we set out with a dream to create the opportunity to scale these stories at size. So now here, creators have an opportunity to come and a platform to come to. Now, it's got to be quality and all those pieces, but that's, to me, what's exciting and historic as well.
I love the fact that you guys are using the word growth as a catalyst, right? Because we know DE&I and diversity is important and critical, but the bottom line for all businesses is growth. Right? And you're not going to get any growth by not reaching and engaging these audiences that are driving and accelerating growth across every single vertical in the US, in North America. You mentioned that you have 1 year as a partnership with Black Excellence 365. What have been some learning lessons? What have been some, success stories that you could share?
Well, first of all, working with Group Black is always a fun. It's more fun than a lot of the other partners that I have to deal with budget meetings and scrutiny over things that are not growth related. This is all about growth. We've had such an interesting and positive journey. We had about 30 plus clients sign up from the beginning, which is huge, way ahead of our expectation. And we did research to try to see, okay, will these campaigns have better or same metrics as other campaigns across NBCUniversal? We saw that they had almost slightly above 19.5% lift in all their brand metrics when they were advertising in Black Excellence 365. And again, it's for us in the room, it's a no-brainer. It's like if you're going to have a message that resonates with diverse audiences in diverse content, it's going to stand out, and you're going to actually have impact. And you don't need a lot of studies to do that. We did do the studies though, and we proved it out because that's what we know how to make studies. But that's really made the decision to do more and expand it so much easier because the brands that came up, they all want to come back and more.
Right. And I think what I've learned is studies work. I'll tell you. So we were talking to, I think the person is going to get top 5 CMO of Forbes. So let's just put it that way. So, it's a good company. And we're talking. And Cavell breaks out the study of their brand. It was like, bam! Yeah, and I was like, that's what I'm talking about. But the conversation that was interesting from his perspective was, we keep calling it a diverse audience, multicultural, and we call it new majority. He said, or they said, I already said it twice, but they said, shouldn't we start our planning from growth and then work back? And he's like, how will we ever benefit from the true value creation of this audience? And I think Peter said it right, which is, at the end of the day, don't mistake reach for resonance and relevance. And I tell you who learned that is P&G. So in the 50s, NBC could reach every single female for P&G, but they didn't have resonant and relevant content. So what did they do? They created soap operas. And that's what unlocked the consumerism of that consumer. And we have the same opportunity sitting in front of us today. So that's what gets me excited about it.
And leave it to Cavell to keep everyone on their feet, right? He keeps us on our feet. Group Black keeps us on our feet. So.
I'm like, Cavell, I'm already bought in. You don't got to sell me now.
No, but I think you make an excellent point, right? Reach versus relevance. That's what we preach to our clients. You can reach, but are you truly connecting with audiences, right? Where you show up, the places and spaces matter, especially to this audience. So that's a nice segue to our next question. Could you elaborate from a storytelling perspective on what this matters, right, to the marketplace?
What? I'm sorry?
From a storytelling perspective, right, in terms of what, Black excellence represents.
So, yeah, well, it's interesting because I think UCLA did a study that came out about a month ago that showed in the streaming wars, there's a secret weapon. And the secret weapon is actually statistically proven to be women, but women of color. And so when you have women of color as a fan base for whatever product you're doing, they proved out the top 20 movies and top 20 series, you disproportionately will stay in the top 20. And so for us, we needed to find ways, how can we continue to lean in? Telemundo is a brand of ours and we know and love. We continue to work with all different communities of color, but having now this enhanced relationship with Group Black to help us continue to curate and identify different stories and storytellers will only make our experience in the streaming world, I won't say streaming world, that much more successful.
And look, we clearly have relationships with a lot of the, I would say, big storytellers, production companies that are excited by this. They're excited because you know what this also gives them? It gives them a different type of discoverability because they're sitting in and around content that a specific audience is also watching. So it's not just, hey, I'm on a channel, I'm also now within a collection of content that's specifically curated for this customer. So the likelihood of discoverability of mine becomes so much greater. So I think, the reality is I think this is groundbreaking for storytellers because it gives us a transformational platform to grow. And you can't beat the scale. That's the other thing. And for marketers, it's a product they understand. They know it works and they know how to invest there, and it has the scale that they're used to. So, yeah, I think it's transformational, man.
I think it also provides an opportunity to tell marketers and agencies that there's no excuse to not invest.
Yes.
Right? Because now you
Amen to
have
that.
the pipelines, the scale, the stories to really not just reach, but connect with these audiences.
Right, and not only is there no excuse, first of all, I never ever in my life wished that I was on the other side, except for maybe the last 3. Trust me, man. I was like, no, I'm good, guys. You guys can do all this. It's just maybe a harder gig though. But anyway, I would have, me, I would have went all in because I know that that's where the growth is. So it's, part of it is sad that we have to say they needed an excuse. But the other part of it is an easy on-ramp to go see results immediately from this community. And that's, whether it was, all the metrics that he talked about, whether it's consideration, whether it was in-store, through the roof, so.
So what I love about this hub,
And incremental reach, too.
what I love about this hub, it's stories for all diverse segments, right? Do you see any untapped opportunities, given the fact that you're opening up the aperture?
Well, I think that we're just also seeing that identities are quite mixed, and we're loving that intersectionality of different groups, whether it's an Afro-Latino audience or whether it's a mixture of different gender identities mixed in with multicultural identities. There's this really democratization that streaming allows you to do, where you can tell stories of all kinds, all flavors, full spectrum, and advertisers can be part of that. And now that we have all this first-party data and all the abilities to do performance-based marketing, we can actually prove back that some of these smaller groups, subsections of a larger group, they're so powerful when you add them all up. So I would say the real opportunity is going to be, how do we super serve the full spectrum of identities for marketers and storytellers alike?
It was interesting. Somebody who, they helped to, I'll just say 50. So in the mortal words of 50 Cent, he's got probably the most successful amount of shows targeted, let's just say, African American. And he said something that was interesting that I'll never forget. He said, I can go and make quality content for any audience I want. He goes, but if I do general market, I'm competing against everything that's been from the beginning of time. He said, but when you really peel back the curtain, you look at diverse audiences, there's very little, man. So let's just go build quality programming and build that up, because I know that I'll be able to attract the audiences because there's nothing there. And Black Panther is a great example. There were Marvel movies made forever. The moment you actually have a culturally relevant story with a culturally relevant cast, you get the #1 movie ever. And the beautiful thing about that, it doesn't have alienation. Yes. So it's not like we alienate a whole other group. It's just inclusive. So, even though...
No, but you have a perfect point there, right? There's a beauty in specificity, because when you kind of go into those granular insights, sometimes they halo out. Yep. And you may not be of the culture, but it does, impact you. You can relate to those stories. And that's what made Black Panther such a big hit.
And I even think, when you look at the growth of Hispanic, you're really looking at a growth of I'm talking about it now as like the reverse melting pot. So everybody came and wanted to be a part of one identity, let's say American, and this happens all around the world, but, and many of them chose not to even speak Spanish. Yeah. Like a whole generation. Now we're getting that back, and they're saying, no, you know what? I actually want to speak Spanish. I want to be inside the dish, but I want my ingredient to be very specifically understood, which is my cultural relevance. And as a result, look, I grew up in Harlem, and my good friend was Peter. Anyway, so what was interesting is that when I watch, like, now Spanglish, it's amazing because that's what I grew up with my friend jumping back and forth, talking to his grandmother who was in the home in Spanish, his mom kind of in broken, and then me in English, and and now to see that actual content being created in all those different kind of cultural reality spaces, it's exciting.
I'm actually the living example of that. So my name was supposed to be Santiago. Really? But my parents wanted to assimilate because they were part of that generation that wanted to kind of assimilate to American culture. So we just had our first son 3 years ago, and everyone was like, hey, are you going to name him Mike? I'm like, no, his name's going to be Santiago. Because it's all about taking it back. So that was a nice moment. So we're going to move on to our favorite topic, KPIs and metrics.
All right, let's drink to that. All right.
Well, it depends on what the results are.
No, what have been some metrics in terms of measure of success that you guys are going to place on some of these untapped opportunities with this partnership?
I think there's a number of metrics that we're measuring. Clearly, in the streaming environment, it's going to be how attractive are these different programs and stories, how much client interest is there, and then we're also going to look to see what is the overall implication or lifetime value. So if somebody comes in because there's a really cool story that's in E+, but they then continue to sample all these other things inside Peacock and they become this Uber user of Peacock, that's almost as much value to us as the money. Because we really want to form deep relationships, which is why we love this partnership so much, because we know we're going to form different relationships than just any old piece of content that's there. So it's financial and just overall engagement.
And you know, to Peter's credit, when we were looking at the release for we talked, and he said, we're burying the lead. The lead is the results. Let's move those up. So, I mean, we know, and that's the only reason why we're at the second phase, because the first phase has been successful and he's seen kind of the pace. But I do want to really commend, because I don't think, we can't share too much, but what NBC has done with this, or NBC, Peacock, Universal, whatever you.
So it's all one big thing.
Okay, I don't want to get that wrong. I'm just naming everything. So, is allow for there to truly be a reinvestment in the ecosystem and grow the ecosystem. So a lot of people are trying to target this audience. But the question is, are they reinvesting in the ecosystem so the ecosystem can continue to grow and continue to help marketers reach this ecosystem? And NBC approached it in a very sustainable, thoughtful way. And I haven't seen a lot of. And anyway, my point is, it's very commendable.
We're all of us on the stage, along with a number of folks in the audience. This marketplace has been a labor of love, and it's not been an easy sell often inside our large multinational companies. But we're here, and we've done it. And once you get a little bit in, you kind of can go further and further and further. And so I think it's today's, a victory for what we were announcing, but it's actually a victory for our whole industry.
Yeah. I agree.
It's basically saying, yes, NBCUniversal is capable of leaning in and not just expanding a partnership, but actually investing significant money in diverse storytelling. So.
And this is a perfect example of a market leader that truly leaned in, because I truly believe you need the bigger players to make that space. And the rising tide lifts all boats, right? So the reinvestment into the ecosystem is important. It's important for marketers as well, because you made a great point too, Bonin, right? How do you tie it back to results? At the end of the day, that's what clients want. Like, is it performing against our metrics, right? We want to support Black, brown-owned media companies, but we know what's going to make clients tick, right? And what's going to make them tick is if they're moving products and services off shelves. And if they know that they're doing that through partnerships like Group Black and NBCU,
right.
Then...
And look, the funny thing is my entire career I've been a growth guy, right?
Yeah.
So I moved us from 3% spending in digital to 32. We added $3 billion top line at Mondelez, which is 3/4 of an Oreo business that took 100 years to build. We did it, in 4.5, and we had a $300 million bottom. So, and I can talk about Pepsi, I can talk about all those things. And I've always tried to find where the growth audience and the growth opportunities are, and how do we shift the business there? And what's interesting about this is, if I told you there was a consumer that had $1.7 trillion of spending power, but brands index 10 to 20%, if you're lucky, you go, where is this mythical consumer and how do I find him? It's right here. It's just we haven't built the infrastructure in order to unlock that consumerism. And that's what we need. But we've done it before. It's called China, it's called India, it's called Brazil. If you really think about it, these industries built the ability to go into that consumer, but they built it alongside that consumer, with that consumer. And so that's just kind of, I think, an extension. That might be too.
Well, the funniest thing is that it's sitting in their backyard, right? If you look at the consumer buying power of diverse audiences, over $5 trillion, bigger than the GDP of India.
And by the way, had we invested in those same consumers at the same rate that we do it would be $50 trillion.
Incredible.
So I know you've got a bigger party. He's got a more important party to go to. The biggest launch on the beach, and then just kidding.
No, this is fantastic. I just want to take a second, though, to also thank Mike, not just for moderating, but Mike has also been one of the most amazing, pioneers, raising the flag for diverse investment. It's just exciting to see you in this new role, expanded role, and just helping us continue to grow, because we couldn't do it without you.
We got to continue the mission.
I want to double that, because he's been a big client to us. So maybe we all give a toast to Mike. I mean, he shows up everywhere we need him to. He tells the story of waves the flag and spends the money. No, I'm just kidding.
And also, I'd be remiss if I didn't also single out Carla Kelly on our team, who leads all of our multicultural and diverse advocacy efforts, and literally has been pushing
a big
this whole agenda inside NBCUniversal. So thank you, Carla.
All right.
All righty.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Congrats.
Thank you so much.
Let's go. Let's get it.